My name is Barbara Cooper, and I'm the chair of the Fidalgo Democrats. Thank you all for coming, really appreciate it. We start our meetings, we'd like, with an acknowledgement. We, the Fidalgo Democrats, acknowledge that we gather on indigenous land, the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Samish and Swinomish people, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. If you're not on our mailing list, we have a sign-in sheet there. Please put down your email and your phone number. We don't send out a ton of emails. Mostly it's about the meetings, and sometimes we send out about rallies and things that we think people would be interested in. I wrote myself a note, please write clearly.
You could read it, so you did.
I did. Anyway, the front door of the library is locked, so you have to leave through the side doors here. The bathroom's in the back there, to your left. And I like to remind people to please turn off your cell phones. Also, please turn off your watches. I have to add that, because some of them are pretty interesting. Okay, Rita Sullivan is our cookie maker, and there are some amazing. Thank you, Rita, and they're great. We also have decaf coffee. We have herbal teas and black teas. It's all in the back, so feel free to grab it. I'd like to tell you a little bit about us, in case you don't know. The Fidalgo Democrats are an independent democratic association with a focus on education. I like to remind people we are not a PAC. We cannot endorse candidates or contribute to their campaigns. However, we do invite Democratic candidates to talk about issues and legislation. And even though the local elections are over, we really encourage you to get involved with the candidates of your choice and legislation that might be important to you. So kind of keep that in mind. You're going to be getting tons of emails, so pick and choose the ones that will be relevant to you. The meeting is being recorded by Rita Sullivan. We send it out to our YouTube channel, and that's the Fidalgo Democrats. If you are on our mailing list, you will get that as well. Tonight we're going to pass the hat, and we're going to give any donations to the community to community to help them continue the important work they're doing. And they'll be our later speakers, and they'll let us know what that is. I'd like to let you know what we're doing with the money we do collect. We voted, the steering committee voted to donate to the Anacortes Family Center this year. We collected over the year a little over $1,000, and we gave them $1,000 for the Family Center. If you're interested in finding out more about the Family Center, just go to their website, Anacortes Family Center, or anacortesfamily.org. They also have a Facebook page. The other thing we do is every few months we go to do the brick dinner at the Presbyterian Church, and different volunteer groups do that. And so we do that, and this is for people who want to come both for socialization as well as people who need a nice hot meal. It's every Sunday, and groups throughout the community do it. We did Christmas dinner this year, and we plan on doing it again, it looks like in March. So the other thing, the reason why I'm telling you is we're keeping our donations this year local. So our next meeting is Tuesday evening, which was the second evening of the month, February 10th, the same place, same time, but we haven't determined the topic yet. The other quick announcement is that there are newsletters, some great newsletters. Skagit Democrats have a really excellent newsletter, and it's filled with all kinds of information. So you can get on their website and sign up. It's free. It comes in your email every Sunday night. And the Whidbey Island also has a very nice newsletter that comes out once a month. Now, this is just an aside. Do we have any elected officials, Democratic Party officials, PCOs, that want to say hello? Okay. Does anybody want to mention your names, or do you want to just wave your hands? That's okay.
Heather Brennan from the school district.
Okay, thank
School
you.
board.
Hey, Heather. Okay.
Don't be shy, guys, come on.
All right, so again, I'll say we encourage you to join the groups, organizations that you're interested in helping. I'm going to turn the meeting over for a couple of minutes to Sarah to talk about Anacortes Stands Up and the work that she's doing.
Oh, yeah, it's just me.
Nobody else. Nobody else. I'm gonna yell. So, is there anybody here who does not know what Anacortes Stands Up is? All right, they're new to town. So you know all those people standing on the corner on Sundays and Wednesdays? That's us. It's just an email list. It's not a formal organization. And it's just a way of getting in touch with people who were really upset about what's happening. And boy, what a week. So because it's been such a week, I just wanted to quickly talk about actions that are coming up that we're planning on.
Sarah, can I say something?
Yeah.
If you want to be on the list, you have to ask. Nobody's reaching out and trying to grab people or send them information they don't want. It's all people who have requested to be added to your list.
And we don't ask for money, and we don't do anything other than tell you about events that are relevant to
And
the
you
group.
don't give out the names on the list to
Of course
anybody.
not, of course not. So there are cards, business cards in the back. You write a note to info@anacortes.com.
Sarah,
Yeah, it's a grassroots organization.
I need you to mention one thing. Yes, we don't collect dues, but we have made significant contributions, and I think you should pat yourself on the back for that.
Yes.
Yeah, we got the idea that we would collect money for the family center when we saw how bad the winter was gonna be for everybody, and I cannot believe it, we got $7,500 donated in our name by all of our different people on the street, and then a bunch of people who just sent money in over the holidays. So, yeah. So we try to do a variety of good works, but I wanted to just talk about what's coming up right away because everybody's so pissed off. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for the vigil that we had Friday night. I put out a call for that in the afternoon, and we got 100 people just within a few hours that showed up, which is really wonderful and very good for the heart. The vigil was, of course, for the murder, the execution of Renee Good, so in her memory. And then the next day, on Saturday afternoon, there were 550 people in Mount Vernon for an action that was called by the Rogues on the Rocks, which is another local grassroots organization. And then on Sunday, we had 330 people on the street. And tomorrow is our day for the regular rally at 3 o'clock. See you all out there. It's going to be at 12th and Commercial as usual. On the 17th, which is Saturday, there will be forget football. Just forget it. Then we have an action on Saturday that's going to be fun, which is Signs of Fascism. So you may have seen some of these videos, but we're going to do that down on R. We don't need volunteers for that because as soon as we sent out a call, we got like 3 times as many people as we needed, and that is typical of this group. Just love it. So we'll be lined up on R with the signs that you read, like Burma Shave signs, about all the different actions that tell us that we are in a condition of fascism. So that's Saturday. On Sunday, we'll have our regular rally 12 to 1, and then a very relevant thing, Sunday afternoon we'll be here at 1:30, and we will start our training and our facilitation from Indivisible for our rapid response group for ICE, in case of ICE actions. So that activity's already been going on with Indivisible Skagit. This will be an opportunity for us to have a group of people in Anacortes. You know, we have food processing plants in Anacortes. So, you know, it's worth paying attention to. We all need to know how to make a video. Okay. And then Monday, which is Martin Luther King Day, there will be a banner drop on the freeway overpasses. So if you don't want to go stand on the overpasses, you can always drive under and honk. What I loved about doing that last time is that the semi-drivers are with us now. So great. And then Tuesday is the National Walkout at 2 p.m. So we'll be on the corner for that. I hope somehow to get high school students to walk out, but I don't know how to do that. And then Wednesday we'll be back to our regular rally. So we've got all those things coming up, and I just wanted to let you know, we're hardly not doing nothing. Oh, and the legislature is considering an anti-masking bill. I would like you to all sign in pro for those. And the governor's talking about an anti-impersonation of officers rule, so that people can't wear uniforms and pretend to be instruments of the state. Yeah, that's everything I know.
Great. If you want more details, you can corner Sarah at some point this evening. But there's a lot going on, you can really tell. We're going to start the meeting with, we put the screen down, so it's too late. Dr. Carl Bruner is the interim superintendent at the Anacortes School District, and Dr. Brian is Frazier is involved with the finances, and they're both here to help us kind of know why they're doing a levy and what the levy is all about for our Anacortes School District. It'll be 10-15 minutes, and if you need more information, I'm sure they'll tell you how to get it. So I'm going to turn it over to them. There you go.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you all for allowing us for a few minutes to share some information about our upcoming renewal levies. And we will try to make it as quick as possible. Brian talks more quickly than I do, so I'm going to let him do most of the talking. But by way of introduction, most school districts, including Anacortes, rely on 2 voter-approved levies for specific support, to provide financing to support specific activities. One of those, the one that has been around the longest and is the best known, is called the Educational Programs and Operations Levy, and that's abbreviated EPO. The EPO does a couple of very critically important things. Number one, it provides funding for those activities that we all consider just part of the educational program offerings in all school districts, but which the state does not fund. And that includes all student activities, including fine and performing arts and athletics. It also includes things like smaller class sizes. So the state will fund at a specific level, particularly in grades 4 through 12. But beyond that, if you want to keep class sizes down to where there is a more optimal learning environment for students, that's on you locally. The second thing that the EPO does is it provides funding for things that we are funded for partially by the state, but not fully. So that includes much of what we do. So for example, compensating our employees. We pay about $10 million a year over and above what we get funded by the state. The state underfunds student transportation, they underfund student food service, they underfund career and technical education aspects of those programs, and they underfund things like substitute costs as well, and utilities and insurance. So we have an example of utilities and insurance right here. So what this does is the vertical bars are our costs from the 2018-19 school year through the 24-25 school year. And the line, the orange line, indicates the level of state funding that we received for that purpose during each year. So you can see that back in 18-19, we received about 82% of reimbursement for our costs for insurance and utilities. Those rates, as we all know, have risen dramatically over time. And fast forward to last school year, we received about 51% for to cover our total costs. We have made significant reductions in an attempt to try and right-size our budget over the past 4 years. And we could go into a lot of detail about that, but we won't. I'll summarize it by saying that over the past 4 years, the net impact to the actual cuts or reductions that we've made to expenditures, combined with the amount that we have drawn down of our cash reserve, has been a negative 10%. That's been the impact on our total operating budget. So it's a little over $5 million, because we have about a $51 million budget. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Frazier to get things sped up.
And feel free to stop me or slow me down at any time to ask questions or clarify. What Dr. Bruner was just talking about is what the district had available to do to correct an imbalance in our budget. We had more expenditures than revenues, and our revenues are primarily given by the state. The state says you have so many students, you get so much money per student, here's your revenue, and we have no opportunity to change that. So what we've done is very significantly impacted our expenditures. Well, our local levies, which make up about 18% of our budget, are capped at an amount per pupil, same as our allocations from the state. That level started at $2,500 per student in 2016. It's gone up with inflation. It was about $3,200 in this last year. Well, when we showed our legislative body the problem that we showed them that graph that has the bars that are going up faster than the line, and they know that districts around the state are facing that. We were all there saying, you guys need to do something. They looked at their own budget and said, well, we don't know that we can. So what they allowed us to do was lift the levy lid, and it's an opportunity that we have that we've never had before to actually raise revenue. So when we're looking at that imbalance, revenue and expenditures, instead of continually clawing back out of the expenditures, we have a chance to raise revenues. And that happens locally. It happens through a local levy. We have levies in place now, and we have the opportunity to ask our voters for a little more. Our school board looked at that and they said, we don't know what else we can cut, so we need to try to raise revenues, and we hope that our voters will allow us to do that. So that's what we're attempting to do with these new levies. The lid has been lifted, so you'll see there's an increase in what we could provide for our students. So if you look across the top there, calendar year 26, so not the school year, the calendar year 26, our local levy that was very well supported 4 years ago, passed at around 64%. This is the Educational Program and Operations levy, just over $8 million. For every $1,000 of assessed value that you own within the school district, it's about 78 cents per thousand. So if you lived in the median home at $680,000, currently you're paying taxes to the EP&O levy of about $535 annually. That's the total annual cost for the EP&O levy. If you look down at calendar year 2027, with the levy lid lift, look at the benefit that we could give to our students. Right? It changes pretty dramatically. And that change happens with a cost at that median home of about $130 annually. In addition to this, yep. So the difference between 2027 and 2026 would be $130. You're looking at about $665 total instead of the $535 that you're currently paying in taxes in that median home. I will pause here and say that these would be our actual authority to collect, but this is an estimate based on the real and personal growth, and this is an estimate derived from that divided by that times that. So the real numbers are in that column, and the years, of course, but the rest of this is an estimate. So when you're looking at then 2028, this is not another increase of $140 annually. This is if you're comparing 2028 to 2026. So once you get from 2027 to 2028, the difference is about $11, the difference is about $2, and then it goes down, again, based on an estimate of real and personal value growth. So this is what we're asking voters, and this is what our board determined we would want for our students. Are there any questions about that before we further questions? Yes?
Since revenues are based, at least in part, on student enrollment, what's been happening to student enrollment over the years?
That's a very interesting question. During COVID,
Repeat the question.
sorry, the question was, what has our enrollment trend been over the last few years? Because the revenue is based on enrollment. Well, our enrollment in COVID, like most districts across the state, went down. It recovered a little bit and had a slight dip last year, and this year it's up a little bit. So if you look at the overall trend from, say, 2018, our enrollment is down pretty significantly due to mainly a large drop during the COVID years. But if you look at the trend from 2018 to COVID, it was trending down. And if you look at the trend of the last 4 years, it's trending up, but certainly not recovered to its pre-COVID height. And there's another question up here, yes.
Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of signs on our street saying no school levies. And so I'm just wondering what's that about and what happens if it doesn't pass?
So the question is, we're seeing a lot of no levy signs out there. What's that about, and what happens if the levy doesn't pass? Well, there is an active no campaign. There's also a very active yes campaign. So if you go online to Citizens for Anacortes Schools, you'll see that there is a yes campaign as well. And you'll see signs going up about that soon, and they're coming. They're starting to pop up as well. So they're
I've seen too many no's.
correct. There are people that vote both ways, and that's their right. That's their constitutional right, and I hope they exercise it to vote either way. The question of what happens if we don't have these levies in place, we lose 18% of our revenue.
Lose those things on that list.
We have to make choices, more choices, much more difficult choices. If we've already reduced by 10%, another 18 is, well, yeah, you can figure out how challenging that would be, yes.
I want to know, is this 2 votes, a vote for continuing the levy and then another vote for increasing the levy, or is it all one package?
It's all one package, but it's 2 separate votes because there's 2 separate levies. So the EP&O levy shows up as Proposition 1, capital levy shows up as Proposition 2.
Okay.
So
But-
we'll move to the second one
Oh, yes.
now.
Carl's moving me along. Thank you, Carl.
Is that
Yes.
workable? I don't want to cut off questions, but I really am sensitive to your agenda, so.
All right, so moving on to the capital facilities and technology levy. This one goes to a separate fund in the school district. It reconciles separately from the general fund. It's not the EP&O levy. This levy supports our technology infrastructure and our physical infrastructure. So we have a levy in place now that is for our technology infrastructure. That's much more than our devices. It's our subscription to Google, to Gmail, to Microsoft Suite. It's our communication software. It's our website. It's our security alarms. It's our fire alarms. It's the people who maintain those systems. It's our learning software, our assessment software. It's all of those things are considered our technology infrastructure. It's the people that maintain that for us, and it's critical to our student learning and our operations. What we have now is a large portion of that capital levy for technology and a small portion for facilities. If you notice, there was a roof that got halfway replaced at Island View Elementary School. It's not because we only need half of a roof, it's because the levy only provided enough funding to do half of it, and then it's a continuing ongoing project. We will finish the whole roof provided we have the funding to do that. These capital improvements here that we're going to talk about, there was a study and survey done, a very comprehensive look from an architecture firm and their team at all of our district facilities. And what they determined was that in the next 10 years, there's about $13 million worth of ongoing maintenance and repair. These are things like repairing roofs, new pumps for our septic systems, new controls for our HVAC, upgrading the lights to LEDs, upgrading our playgrounds to be more modern, resealing and striping our asphalt, some things that are really flashy and some things that you'd never notice until they go bad. Another example of that, I went on a tour to look at all of our boilers, our heating systems in the elementary schools and middle school. And all of those are very well maintained. They were replaced about 12 to 15 years ago. They're in good shape because we're taking care of them. They have a useful life of 15 years. So we have about 12 boilers that are going to be up for replacement soon. Now, I have some appliances in my home that I know are well past their useful life, and by the way that we maintain them, I know that these boilers will get past their useful life. But I don't want to not have a plan when they're past their scheduled useful life. So that's what the board has asked us to try to do. Thank you. So the capital levy, right now, like I said, is about $3 million, $2.5 million for our technology infrastructure, $500,000 for our capital needs. What the board has done is look at that list of what do we need. The levy is 4 years long. So what do we need in the next 4 years of that list of improvements? And what does that cost? A little bit of inflation for construction. And what the board came to was asking $5 million, which is an even amount, for $2.5 million for capital and maintenance, capital infrastructure and maintenance, and $2.5 million to simply maintain the technology infrastructure. We are innovative as a district. We have been innovative and we will continue to be, but we don't need to ask more for technology. But what we do need to ask more for is to keep our facilities in great shape for our kids to have a safe and comfortable place to learn. So what the board determined was to ask for that $5 million in the first year, an inflationary adjustment going forward, and in the next 4 years, we believe this would allow us to address the facilities and capital needs of the district. With these, this is the same chart, works the same way. 27 compared to 26 would be an additional $122 in that median assessed value home. And that's the annual increase. And you'll see this one stays about the same because this is based on this plus the value, so we could just match our levy to the projected value increase. It's entirely local, not statewide, which is why that one stays the same. So that's what the board has asked us to do, and what we're asking the voters to do is help us maintain our capital facilities. When you combine the two, this again is the same chart. I'm not going to go through it all again in the interest of your time, but you see the combined assessed value rate per thousand right now is about $1.08. And we're proposing an increase per thousand of 37 cents to be about $1.45. In that median value home, the increase, if the levy passes to 2027 compared to 2026, would be $251.60 in that median value home. So you get up to about $986 combined, which is above the $734 we're asking for now. And all of that money stays local and goes to the support of our district operations and facilities. Yes?
So when you say that the school district gets X amount per student from the state, does that X amount cover all of these? Or does the state break their X amount into these two categories that our levies are broken into?
Excellent question. So the question was, the allocation from the state, does that come into both our general fund, which is where the EP&O levy goes, and the capital fund? There is no state funding for capital projects, except when things break and you have an emergency and there's grant funding available. And I should say there's other grant funding as well, and we're pursuing a grant, but there's not an allocation per pupil for capital projects. That's all based on local collections of bonds and levies, or grants that we can pursue. We are pursuing grants, but our grants, we don't believe there are grants out there to meet our needs.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I have a question about the EP&O slide that you were showing, and I know that in it there was reference to staff stipends and also student clubs, I think. And what I'd like to know, because the value for me is a really strict separation between church and state, is that I know that there are a couple of Bible clubs that have sprung up, the students have sprung up at the middle school, and to be clear, I have no issue with students, just freely expressing, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. What I want to know, because my understanding is that they meet in a classroom, is there staff time, paid staff time, that is providing supervision for those kids during that time? Because that's a little different than students just meeting on their own. The other part of my question has to do with a group called LifeWise that is making some inroads in other communities around the state and the country, and I know has approached the Anacortes School District, and in that case, the model is to remove kids from the school premise using the religious release clause. Because of that, if it happens, again, there would be staff time that would be devoted to signing kids out, signing kids in, all of that. So what I want to know is, are my tax dollars, are other people's tax dollars going even 1 penny to support religious activities within our schools?
So in terms of, let me speak first to the middle school Bible clubs. There has to be, according to our board policy, and actually according to state regulations, there has to be an adult in the room. That adult can only have eyes-on supervision. They cannot participate otherwise. And it is not someone, because I know what's happening at the middle school, we have nobody who has been brought in or whose hours have been increased to supervise that club during lunch. It's somebody who's volunteered. And they're using part of their lunch time.
You're saying that they're using their personal time
That's correct.
to do this. It is
That's
not
correct.
part of their contract, it is not built into their.
That is correct.
Their
Yes.
daily.
And as far as LifeWise goes, we have no current indication that there will be a LifeWise club, or club probably is the best term, in our district. That may change. As you say, they've made inroads elsewhere in Western Washington and nationally, but that's our current, that's what we currently know.
Okay. Thank you.
What can we do?
Yeah,
What can we do?
Yeah.
how do we do?
One of my favorite people of all time, Maggie Thompson, is here and can share some information about it.
We're gonna have to move along quickly. but
Okay, all
do
I
it.
ask is if anybody wants a yard sign, just, I'll get a sign-in sheet here, and then maybe I can pick it up later, and, just give me your address and your name, and I'd love to get a sign in your yard. Okay, and anything you can do to help support us. We've had incredible historical support from the citizens of Anacortes for our schools, and we have confidence that we will continue to have that support. So thank you, and I'll get a sign up going here for signs.
Thank you, and thank the school district, thank you Heather for being on the board at this very difficult time. I'm gonna make a personal statement. I was on the school board in 2000 to 2008. This presentation, the numbers are different, it's the same old stuff. There's not enough money to cover the expenses, the state doesn't cover it, we have to pay our taxes out of our homeowners, and it's still the same frustration, and, you know, the no and the yes and the voting and all that stuff. I mean, one would think 20 plus years later, it would be a little different, but unfortunately, it's not. So, I've editorialized, and I apologize, but it makes me crazy. That the same discussion is going on, so thank you all for doing all you do.
Thank you.
Okay. I did not do a very good job of introducing our speakers, but I feel very comfortable that they can introduce themselves better than me. So we have three wonderful people who have given up their evening, and they're super busy doing what they do. And that is Rosalinda Gulen, Marcos Munez, and Isaac Cavazos. And I'm sure I pronounced all their names incorrectly. So I will let them introduce themselves, and I apologize for my lack of skills. Yeah, you're gonna do a PowerPoint or, okay, great.
But I can introduce the presentation while Isak sets up the.
Okay, wonderful.
Barbara, watch your foot there.
So I just want to thank you all for inviting us to do this presentation. We have been working really hard in Skagit County and also in Whatcom since 2005 or 6 to educate our community about the farm workers, who we are, what we do, why we're important to our food system, and also educate the community about food systems. We don't exist in a vacuum as farm workers. Your food and access to your food and everything doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are family farmers, and Whatcom and Skagit County are two agricultural counties. But also, Washington State also is still an agricultural state. And a lot of the state economy is based on agricultural products and agriculture, period. As in, some of the big crops and the big corporate farms are in Eastern Washington. And all you have to do is think apples and you think Washington State, right? Yeah. Cherries, tree fruit, peaches, pears. That's a big money crop. Those are big money crops for Washington State, exporting a lot of that product from the state. So for us as farm workers, many of us have lived in communities like this for a couple of generations at least, sometimes 3 or more generations. And I introduced myself as a liberated farm worker that worked in the fields in Skagit County, because my family came to Skagit County in the late 50s. My father came here, and then he brought me over, me and my brothers and sisters, in 1960. So, I grew up part of my life in Mexico and the rest here in Skagit County. I'm the oldest of 8, and we all worked in the fields. My father, his whole life worked in the fields. He was like one of those migrant workers that migrated all across the country, as did millions of peasant farmers from Texas, in the Southwest. They worked the fields across the country as migrant workers because the farmers needed labor, and that was about the only labor that our families could do. So I have that history and the knowledge of what it was like to travel across the country and live in labor camps and work for all these different small farmers and big farmers all the way. I only know my father's stories, you know, upstate New York. He would migrate from the border in Texas, southern Texas, all the way up the south, Mississippi, pick cotton, go all the way up the coast to the New York State, upstate New York, and work in family farms, and then cut across west to Minneapolis, to Minnesota, Wisconsin, work all of those fields. I have stories from my mother and my father about picking potatoes in Wyoming, you know, cutting across to Idaho, but then they would go south through Oregon, California, and back down the west coast, in the southwest back to Texas. And then I would see my father, because I was living in Mexico, maybe 3 weeks in December. He usually tried to make it home for Christmas, and then he'd get ready with the other families and the other migrant workers and head north again. And this is a history of my generation, my father's generation, of working in the fields. So I'm a farm worker here locally that worked in your fields along with my brothers and sisters and my father since the mid-50s, when my father arrived in Skagit County, until he passed away in 1995. So it's important to me. I think that as a farm worker here that grew up I went to school in LaConner, didn't graduate.
You were about my student.
Oh my God, Mr. Sellen!
My wife and I were walking down the street in Mount Vernon, and she was talking to a young man, and she introduced me as the person. Rosalinda introduced me as the person who made her a radical.
Mr. Sullen arrived in the mid-60s when I was a teenager, and we were all like O'Connor School. It was so small, class of about 14 kids, you know, we had small classes. And the honest to God truth, Mr. Sullen used to teach us sitting cross-legged on his desk. And we were like, whoa. It was amazing. When he arrived, you and the music teacher, Mr. Babritis, Mr. Erickson, you know, Mr. Erickson used to drive up in a motorcycle. And Mr. Sullen, all of these radicals arrived in LaConner School, and Mr. Sullen is one of my favorite teachers, always was. He taught a lot of my brothers and sisters. Very radical. We read a lot, and we had political discussions in the classroom. It was amazing. So yeah, it was very awakening, you know, for us as these bunch of, I think, Native American Swinomish kids, and then the farm worker kids. I was one of those. All my brothers and sisters went through Mr. Sullen's class. You know, I'm the oldest, so there's 8 of us, so we all went through LaConner School. So what an honor to have you here. Now I'm like, okay, better do this. Anyway, so it's important to me as a farm worker. It's when I learned about Cesar Chavez and the farm worker movement, you know, to bring back to my community my own history that I didn't know anything about, but also to honor my father and the other farm workers that worked so hard in this country to make the agricultural industry so powerful, both politically and also, you know, with all the money that they made off of the labor of millions of farm workers like my father who worked so hard to make them rich. Yeah. And the fact that the way that the agricultural industry is structured has intentionally created a subclass of laborers, farm workers, that they were allowed to have cheap labor. And, you know, knowing my history and the history of agriculture, that agriculture was founded on slavery. slave labor was the beginning of the creation and the development of the agricultural industry in this country, starting with sugar cane, tobacco, cotton. Yes, ma'am?
I picked berries in the fields in 1955, 56, 57. I know exactly what those farm workers from Mexico went through, how they lived. They lived exactly like slaves. They came up on flatbed trucks. Honestly, it's a shame, and I'm embarrassed to even know that I know that.
Well,
It's
and in labor camps,
unbelievable.
right? I grew up in labor camps. I know Mr. Sullivan visited us
Yeah.
in
And the
Hobart's.
babies were
Yeah.
playing in the dirt and the mud
Yeah.
with no parents.
And it's like, it is because that is what the industry is used to, is slave labor. And then when you dig deeper, is slave labor on stolen land, which was indigenous land that was taken, right? This country has a history that is, needs to be recognized
Yeah.
and needs to be, what is the word? Rectified, but also in a way that recognizes that it is still a food system, that people need to be fed, and they need to be fed healthy food. And in my organization, Community to Community, that I founded in 2003, our goal is to create a better world from our perspective, which is that we are honored as farm workers. We were raised by my father to feel honored to be working and doing something that was growing food that people were going to eat. And my father used to tell me, not many people get the honor of doing something so sacred as to grow food that other people will eat. He told me all of us working in the fields, but the reality is much different. You know, growing up in poverty has impact on all of us. And when I found out the structure of the creation of the agricultural industry in this country, it broke my heart. And then it made me angry. And then I was fortunate enough to run into organizers that taught me what to do with that. And this is what we're doing today. So there's a history of those of us that grew up in this country, in Texas and the Southwest and other areas, that worked the land along farmers, many times in the early days with farmers, small family farmers, and then eventually in big agricultural corporations that turned the work more into almost like we're machines, you know, where the labor is exhausted, just churning us in and out of the agricultural industry. And I think that it has shifted a lot, and there's a recognition that, in my opinion, that the reason the presentation we want to give is related to this. I think that in small, rural, family farming communities, the farm workers and the family farmers and our friends and neighbors, which is, you know, good people that live in the community, there's like an understood social contract that is based on living together and trying to protect each other and to take care of each other and pay attention to what's going on. At the same time, there's like an ignorance and an invisibility to how farm workers are living in the local labor camp. In La Conner, it was the Hobart's labor camp was the biggest one. That's where we lived, and then there were others. But this social contract of us working for family farmers and making a living and going to school with the farmers' kids and all of that is being broken and has been being broken for many years, and it's getting into an intolerable level. By the recognition of the agricultural industry, the big guys, the big farms that have thousands of acres, mono agriculture, right? Industrialized production that is hurting the earth, but it's hurting my people, and eventually it is hurting you as consumers. Because you're not only eating pesticides, but you're eating the destruction of the environment around you and the innocent creatures that are being harmed, like the salmon and the bugs and the other little animals that live on the land alongside the food that's being produced by the chemicals that are being put all over the fields, but also us, the humans working on the land. And so we've been calling attention to this. Cesar Chavez almost died when he did fast to try to get the agri-corporations to stop using pesticides. But we've been part of these communities. And in Washington State, over the last 10 years, something has happened here that nobody paid attention to. We did, because we knew this was happening. The agricultural industry started importing farm workers from Mexico and other countries using a program, a federal program called the H2A program. They call it the guest worker program, but like we say, this is no way to treat a guest in the United States. And so the H2A, the federal H2A program is a program developed way back in the 1920s and 30s, and then it started growing in the 40s during World War II, and then it really started growing bigger in the 60s. But it is a program that is like a triumvirate between the Department of Labor, Homeland Security, and the U.S. government. So it allows temporary worker permits for farm workers to come into the country and work with one farmer for a season and then go back. So these are contracted, imported farm workers coming in from Mexico to work on farms all across the country. And this program has grown. These workers come in, they don't have any rights, they don't have the right to organize, they have no transportation, they are being brought into a community they don't know anything about. They have to be fed by the farmer, and the farmer most of the time holds on to their permit. They step off the farm, they're illegal aliens. And they don't know where they are. Access to medical care is supposed to be provided by the farmer. Their paychecks are provided by the farmer. Most of the time they live in these almost prison-like rural labor camps in areas that are isolated. And so the only transportation they have is being provided by the employer. In the Yakima area lately, the farm workers that are being brought in from Mexico now are even like, the farmers will literally rent a whole motel or hotel and put them all in these hotels. But still, they don't have the freedom to move around in the community. And in many of these farms, they're forbidden to speak to people in the community, and the people in the community are not allowed access to the workers. And we're talking in the thousands. So it's important to our community because it affects you. It affects your community. If you can imagine, Honesto Silva Ibarra came with a group of 700 plus farm workers to Sumas, Washington. How many of you know the population of Sumas in Markham County?
Not much more than that.
It's somewhere between 900 and 1,000 people. Imagine having 750 farm workers from almost every state in Mexico just plot into a farm to pick blueberries in such a small city that have no connections to the community, no transportation, in an isolated labor camp, surrounded by chain link fence, with a gate for entering and leaving, and the only transportation to and from work. Ernesto Silva Ibarra worked for a season in 2017 during the time of the climate of the smoke that was coming in over our counties, right, from Canada. Was it 3 to 5 weeks? Smoke all over our counties. We couldn't breathe. Announcements everywhere. Stay indoors. Unhealthy air. Don't have keep your activities low, right? Don't exert yourself because the air quality is really bad. During all these announcements, those workers were working in the field at peak blueberry season, 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Honesto Silva Ibarra had diabetes, and these conditions exacerbated his diabetes and he became ill, as did many other farm workers becoming ill. But he collapsed, went back into his room, and the supervisor kept pulling him back out into the fields to work for about 3 days. He finally collapsed and could not get up anymore. And the local farm workers who knew him, who had seen these things happening and had heard that he was sick, tried to contact him, and they couldn't. So they made a big noise at the farm, and they finally made it inside, and he was collapsed in his bed. And so because the local community called attention to it, the company transported him to Seattle, where he died in a hospital because of his conditions, of which were poor nutrition and dehydration. And that's what caused, because of his diabetes, for him to die. He was 28 years old and had 3 children in Mexico. So we found out about it. And this happened in our community in Whatcom County in 2017. And my organization went in there, and when the H2A workers saw that they had support from the community, they walked out. And there was a massive strike, of which we supported them, and we spent the next 90 days with them in an outdoor camp as we got media and got attention to the workers, gave them health attention, medical attention, because they were also dehydrated and suffering from that, from exhaustion and the dehydration. We have witnessed in our own county this death and this treatment of my people in front of our eyes, worked them to death. And this is not unusual, we understand, and it's worse in the South. The whole farm worker population in the Deep South is all H2A workers. So what we want to tell you is what's happening here now, because we have worked really hard since Ernesto Silva Ibarra died in his honor to protect farm workers here and to look at the food system here and avoid this again. I'd like to introduce these 2 young people here, Isaac Cavazos and Marcos Munoz. They have been working really hard with us, and they're future organizers, and right now they're, thank God for young people who know technology, and also they look at charts, and they're data nerds, which I love, but also passionate. Anyway, they're here with me to present to you the facts of what's happening in Skagit County with the H2A program. Because we must protect our environment, we must protect our food system, and we have to pay attention of what's happening without us knowing, and the powerful push towards removing the work opportunity for local farm workers and replacing them with contracted quasi-slave labor. And I will say that to any farmer. It is quasi-slave labor, and I will keep saying it until you prove to me that it's not. It is not my responsibility to give you excuses. It is your responsibility as farmers and agricultural industry to prove to me that that is not what's happening. So I would like to start. I think Isaac's going to start, or Marcos is going to start first, because you have to look at the numbers. Yes?
I just have a brief question. I drive around through the Skagit Valley and the back roads and the farms and stuff. And I see, and I respect the workers out there, seasonal, whatever, case may be. And I see their vehicles. Now, I haven't seen anything, maybe I'm naive, don't know what I'm looking at, but I see them in their own cars.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that live and are more independent.
Yes.
Part of our community.
Yes.
But I haven't seen what and I get out there just for the hell of it and drive around.
They're isolated in
So,
prison camps, right?
A lot of them are isolated remember,
I go off on the
I'm coming to you now
Yeah.
because this county is still a small family farming system.
Yeah.
This is not an industrialized food system yet. But many areas in Eastern Washington were also small family farming systems. Bringing in H2A workers is the beginning of the industrialization of our food production. This program is harmful to small family farmers. The small family farmer cannot compete against these agri-corporations that want to just plow everything down and put in, like, I'm just gonna say it right now. There is one particular farm that we're really concerned with, and it's Skagit Valley Farms, right? Brussels sprouts. I mean, you see acres and acres and acres of Brussels sprouts right now. That's mono-agriculture, people. That's mono-agriculture, industrialized mono-agriculture coming into Skagit. And they've got these humongous machines that they're using to harvest Brussels sprouts. So we all love Brussels sprouts. I don't anymore, not after what happened in the flood. We'll explain that later. But I mean, that is the beginning of industrialization. Because this is not a local family farm. This is an industrialized farm that came into Skagit County. Smith Gardens, you know, is another one. I mean, it's just, it's like we have to pay attention to this. And now, like what?
Viva Farms, aren't they farms?
They're not, that's not even a farm. That's like a farming training organization, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
That's a really good
We'll move
organization.
forward, because we want to stay.
We are leaving time for questions at the end, so we can have an open panel conversation, kind of more about all of the data that we're about to go over. So I'm gonna pass it over to Marcos.
Hello.
I can go on for hours.
Hello, my name is Marcos Munoz. I am the H2A data analyst for C2C, and I do a lot of the number crunching for the data that we're going to be going over today.
Speak clear.
Oh, okay.
We're all.
I also speak very quietly, but I'll try and project my voice. My name is Marcos Munoz. I am the H2A data analyst for C2C, community to community, and I've collected a lot of the numbers and data that we're going to be going over today. And I'm going to briefly go over the numbers from the national perspective to the state, and then hand it over to Isaac when we get to the local view. So nationally, the H2A program has almost doubled over the past 8 years. It is slowly, it's been growing very rapidly, and this has been in conjunction with efforts to move the farm worker community out of the local community, or your neighbors, and replace them with essentially tools, which sounds bad, but that's how they treat people. So yeah, this is the past 8 years in how many H2A workers have been brought in throughout the nation, how many contracts have been applied for, and how many have been approved, and you can see that all of this is growing very rapidly.
What does H2A stand for?
H2A is actually the name of it's just a number of a section of labor description in the Department of Labor. It's a type of worker program, H2A. You know, it's a huge document that goes all the way to ABC.
We don't get.
Right.
It's the specific visa that they're given that lasts for a season.
Yeah. Okay.
Next slide. This is the growth over the past, more than a decade within Washington, and you can see that it's picked up a lot. And the growth has been a lot stronger, specifically within Washington compared to nationally. You can see that there's a drop-off during COVID, which happens a lot. And then this year there was actually a drop-off because of the government shutdown. But there's, in the preliminary numbers that are coming out for next year, it's actually getting even larger. And then the next slide is how these workers are distributed within the state. And you can see that on the west side, there's actually not very many H2A workers being certified or applied for either. But on the east side, you can see that there's large areas where thousands of jobs that could be going to settled workers or workers that have lived within the community for generations are being replaced or displaced by H2A workers. Okay.
There you go, we got a full student.
Okay, yeah, is that? Some issues with this data, this is based on primary work sites. A lot of these workers are actually working in multiple counties because these are very large farms that are contracting up to 2,500 workers at a time.
Per farm.
Per farm, yeah, per contract. And they will have them working in like 4 or 5 counties, in fields distributed between 4 or 5 counties. I think the largest contract that I've ever seen in Washington was somewhere around 2,600 workers, and it had, I think, 80 different work sites that were distributed across several different counties. So, yeah, that's what it looks like in Washington State, and then I'll pass it over to Isak to give more information about how it is locally.
I just wanted to say, like, if you look at the area up near the northern border of the state,
Yes.
I mean, that is a very low population counties. Those are very low population counties. We'll have to check this out, but I would venture to say that there's more H2A workers in those counties than the regular population that lives there. And all they do is pick tree fruit. So, I mean, in the Okanagan area, for sure, the number of H2A workers, there's workers and trees, right? So.
Hello, my name is Isak Cavazos, and I am the Public Action and Campaign Coordinator for Community to Community. Like Rosalinda's family, my family came from South Texas and worked in the fields as well, and they joined the migrant circuit and now no longer in that work, but I as well, I'm a farm worker and worked in the fields and in the Brussels sprouts. And when I worked, the machines weren't around, so to see them now, it's very interesting because they were really recently introduced in the past 3 to 4 years. Something I would like to bring attention to is the local data that we see here. As you can see right now, the numbers of this program have grown at a very exceptional rate. There are many H2A contractors within the state, but WAFLA, which stands for the Worker and Farmer Labor Association, is the second biggest H2A contractor in the nation. Farm labor contracting is a lucrative business that seeks to grow the H2A program because every worker exploited is more profit in the pocket. Here locally, we have been seeing the expansion of the H2A program and its counterparts, trying to gain a foothold here in the Skagit Valley. As the H2A program grows, we are not only seeing the active displacement of our local workforce, but we also see it's impacting the lives of the most vulnerable members of our communities, as we saw with the Casa Grande incident. The Casa Grande apartment housed about 40 very low-income seniors and disabled people from our community over in Mount Vernon. After the purchase of Casa Grande apartments, Aquiles Housing, LLC, which is WAFLA's contracted housing partner, evicted the tenants living there, and after that, they moved very swiftly and quickly and began to make preparations to accommodate at least 70 workers, H2A workers for Smith Gardens, in a building that previously had a capacity of 40 residents. So they changed how these rooms looked and put 6 beds into 1 room, bunk beds, barely any room for them to move, just to sleep and go. And when the H2A workers arrive, we can see them. They're walking across the bridge to go to Ross. They're walking around and seeing them in groups because they have no access to transportation. We see this as one of the first steps of trying to expand the H2A program in Skagit Valley, similar to what they are doing on the eastern side of the state. Recently, I had the opportunity to travel to Quincy with representatives from C2C and union leadership, where 2025 H2A numbers were over 2,000 workers. We met with farm workers who reported a rapidly worsening working and living condition, driven by increased immigration enforcement, changes to the H2A labor policies, and retaliation against who speaks out. These overlapping issues have led to job instability, wage suppression, food insecurity, fear, and serious impacts on workers' health, housing, and family well-being. In this state, we pay over $600 million worth of H2A wages. That is a payroll that is not reintroduced into the local economy through local workers. When speaking with the H2A when speaking with the workers from Quincy about this temporary guest program, they say the growers saying there are no local workers is a lie. The workers don't go back because the growers say they are not hiring or just employing H2A. The local people won't waste their time going to a farm where they know that they will not be hired due to prioritization of the H2A program. The effects seen on the eastern side of the state are not isolated. This program displaces workers in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, leaving the door open to replicate these impacts all over the country. Locally, corporate farms in Skagit County pay well over $3 million in payroll for H2A. On top of that, we see WAFLA attending city council meetings and speaking about how they can help create farm worker housing, when we know they are already displacing vulnerable communities in favor for this quasi-slave labor force known as H2A. With the current housing shortage and the unprecedented growth of Skagit County, we see the need for just farm worker housing for the neighbors who sustain and feed us. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We have some information on what to do next and what bills.
So I think you touched on this, but I would like to hear just a few more comments about if we're not bringing in H2A workers who are being treated abysmally.
Yes.
Are there enough workers indigenous to the state?
Yes.
That's a piece of information, I would have no.
Yes, they are, there are. And I think that the bringing in of H2A workers was never about the work not being enough workers in Washington State. It was about the workers that were here, workers like myself and others, demanding better wages, demanding better treatment, organizing themselves into unions, and trying to work with the industry to create better working conditions all the way around. It was about farm workers advocating for, conditions in the fields, rest breaks, lunch breaks, and better treatment in general. That's what drove the industry to bring in a workforce that can't do that. So the workers are there, and I think Isaac talking to the Quincy workers, those are the ones that are there. There's enough workers in Skagit County also that have been here and are here. We know that there's enough workers. But the industry has political power to go to the legislature and create that false narrative that there aren't enough workers. It's like, bargain with the workers, pay better wages, have better working conditions, and the workers will go work with you. That negotiation, that moral contract, that social contract that we had before, that exists in small farms still, not in the big farms, and it's the big guys that have the political power to create these changes.
Thank you.
And I think also, just to be able to add on to that, when the formation of the union was happening, they had to prove that there was enough workers here to be able to have formation, also not bring in H2A workers. So I think within the community, we know what's there. We know when the season is, we know what's available. And for example, over in Quincy, this is the first year the workers have gone 2 months without work. There's never not been pruning. They've always gone and they've always pruned in the trees and the apple orchards, but now because of the H2A program, they have lost 2 months worth of wages. And now they're traveling hours outside of the county to go and travel to go to farms, trying to go to other areas where they're bigger to be able to try to get that wage. And they shared with me that their family sees the stress. They see them already trying to bring money to the table, and on top of that, they're traveling hours on end just to be able to make $300 to $400 a day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think your hand was up first.
How do the anti-immigrant policies of the government currently and ICE, how does that fit into the whole picture? Are they ignoring the H2A people in favor of throwing everybody else out of the country?
We are seeing right now that there are 7 current bills right now in the federal house that are looking to expand the H2A program, but also militarize the border. One of those being the Farm Worker Modernization Act and another the Dignity Act. We passed out some forms, or Sarah passed out some forms that have bills introduced by Congress currently that are relevant to the H2A program, and all these bills seek to expand it, but also with militarization of the border.
Almost all of these bills have a component in there for deportation, for enforcing immigration, and also false solutions for immigration reform. They're actually calling the H2A program immigration reform. Trying to send the workers, deporting the workers, and then having that they can apply to come in as H2A workers, which is a workforce again, with no rights. So it's very much linked. This whole deportation, we believe, is part of the Project 2025 to deport the workforce and then bring in this contracted workforce back into the agricultural industry. And so this is all being negotiated in Washington, D.C. by the lobbyists for the Farm Bureau and other big political agricultural consultants.
Isn't this, I thought we got rid of slavery.
So did we.
Yes,
We never got rid of slavery.
I know, but this is in our face.
Yeah.
It's in our face and have it, I'm sure you've gone to the legislature, the governor, Rick Larson, or whatever, Patty Murray, whatever.
Yeah.
I think. This is slavery, and I thought, this is against our Constitution that nobody's paying attention to.
She's saying that we've seen this again, that this is slavery, that we are seeing now with the H2A program, that it is slavery currently that we are seeing. And it's directly, you're right in front of our faces, and it's happening, but we have the rare opportunity here in the Skagit Valley with our numbers so low to oppose the program, to go to City Council and to let them know that we want our local workforce, that we do not want a foreign workforce coming in. We have the rare opportunity, because our numbers are so low, to try to stop and oppose this program. Yes, ma'am.
How can you stop it at a city council meeting? You can't just say, I don't want it, and they won't come.
Exactly, but they can put more stricter housing rules and also different codes for their counterparts, like Aquila's Housing. If they want to build, what are the process to getting that permit and understanding through the city? Because the city approved them buying Casa Grande.
Go ahead.
But aren't most of these farms in unincorporated areas, so the city council has no power?
Right, but there's a county commissioners, but the most important component, I think, Isaac, you got the farms. What we really want to talk to you about, the most powerful tool that we have, or the most powerful act, is the family farmer saying no. I will not, nobody can force a farmer to apply to bring in H2A workers. Because we need to, our allies need to call it for what it is. The H2A program is a quasi-slave labor program, and if my neighbor, the family farmers, are going to use a quasi-slave labor force to grow food, what are we going to do to defend the family farmers so they don't have to do that? So that they can compete against the big guys. And I think that we need to work together with our local family farmers and convince them, hire the local workers. Don't bring in H2A workers to work on your farm. We like the farming system that we have now. What can we do to incentivize local government to support you so that you can pay better wages to the local farm workers and maintain a healthy farming system? And what we're doing as an organization, thanks to the skills of the young people like Marcos and Isaac, is we're actually tracking who is bringing H2A workers. And while the numbers don't look that big, this is how it starts. And so what we're asking you is, and we've got the list, this is a full list of the farmers in Skagit and Whatcom County bringing in H2A workers. Call the farms that are not bringing in H2A workers that you see and thank them. Thank you for hiring the local farm workers who are our friends and our neighbors, but call these guys and say, what are you doing? Who are you? I mean, why are you bringing these workers from Mexico? I mean, what difference does, like Berry King Farm, you're bringing in 2 workers? Are you telling me you can't find 2 local workers to replace these guys?
Not as cheap.
Well, not as cheap, no, not as compliant. You know what I mean? It's about compliance.
And I wanna add something, those workers coming from Mexico that our farmers are depending on are professionals. They're the best farmers we've ever had.
The ones that are here.
Yeah, the ones,
Yes.
well, the ones that they're.
Yeah, we're Mexican
they
farm
treat
workers.
like slaves.
Exactly.
That are really professional.
However, what we want to ask you is to look at this. I think the list is in the packet, right?
Yeah.
The list is in your packet. Look at this list. Let everybody know these guys are this is a quasi-slave labor program. This is how it starts. We have to stop it before it grows. Our family farmers need to know, what can we do to support you so you don't have to bring in a quasi-slave labor force? At the same time that you are also standing up for immigrants' rights and trying to stop ICE from deporting the community that's here. It goes together. It goes together. You're doing such an important work on the immigrant justice and immigrant rights. Link it to our food system and to the labor that is being lost, the skilled labor force that is being lost that's here in Skagit County. Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to understand some concrete actions that I could take, and what I'm sort of coming to is, I need to know what the Washington Bulk Company does, who they sell to, and how I can say to them, I will hurt you economically if you continue to do this, but I need to hear from you guys. Is this a strategy, or I think we're getting the message, but how do we help you?
Exactly, and like next steps. I know that all of this information can feel very overwhelming, hearing it all at once, a bunch of meetings. But some next steps that we can take right now is stay involved by signing in our sign-in sheet and keeping an eye out for our email blast. But it's there in the back. But also finding the contact information for your congressional representative and asking them for a no vote on all the legislation looking to expand the H2A program. Also, Washington Bulk Company is also known as Rosengard. They're one of the biggest tulip individuals that have the Tulip Festival, and we held an action there a couple of years ago demanding more rights for the individuals, because then, 2 years ago, they were in wooden porta potties they had out there. Not even actual porta potties, wooden shacks outside. Yeah, wooden outhouses, shacks. And with the shacks, they would fill with sewage and they would overspill. So we organized against that Washington Bulk in order to bring more worker rights for those individuals. Since then, they have completed, but we're still going to go up until we have a union contract with Washington Bulk.
So I think that we're trying something here that was not done anywhere else where the H2A worker program grew. We're coming to the eaters, to the community, before it expands to that level. And we want to be really clear.
To stop it.
To stop it before it gets unmanageable, before this is a mono-agricultural industrial food production area, like in other places. Yes, ma'am.
I was in Costco the other day, and I bought Brussels sprouts from Skagit Valley.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we need to put some pressure on retailers.
Retailers, but first it's Skagit Valley Farm.
Right.
It's Skagit Valley Farm is the farm that had farm workers cutting Brussels sprouts in the middle when the flood was at its peak, raining, and the calls were being put out to evacuate. Skagit Valley Farms had workers working out there 14 hours a day in the rain and in the mud. And their families were at home desperately trying to figure out what to do while the head of the household was still working. And so, I'm not going to eat Brussels sprouts. So there's this thing, what we have to do is, I think, work together. You say, what can we do? We want you to do what wasn't done in other areas, is take that personal action. Call Costco and tell them. Call the farms and say, stop bringing in H2A workers.
But you need to give us that information.
It's right here. We don't have the numbers, but we have the names. I think that the ask is I don't think that it's going to help if you tell people that C2C told me to do this, right?
No.
But you as an individual, the ask is stop bringing in H2A workers and hire local workers. We know that you're bringing in H2A workers. Are you trying to call for a boycott?
I don't think it has, I mean, sure, why not, but I mean, before that, like, I shop at Costco and I happen to like Brussels sprouts. With this information, I can now go talk to the manager of the Costco.
Buy
and
somebody
say-
else's Brussels sprouts.
But this is the information that I could use from you in an email or something, that knowing that Skagit Valley Farms is hiring 6 of these workers, I can't do anything with that.
Yeah. The sign-in sheet currently is floating around. If you note down and you want to write down that you're interested, we can make sure to follow up with you via email and send you over that information, so then that way you have the tools needed to be able to continue advocacy.
But one of the other big important asks is to call the congressional representatives like Isaac said, because if those bills pass, it will create legalized slavery in agriculture in the United States on a national level. All of those bills cover an important component of labor rights and control of the workforce, all the way to biometric identification of the workers that come. I mean, it is just hideous, because it's a beginning also. If they do this to agricultural workers, this is gonna grow into other areas of workers.
Sure it is.
So those bills, it's just incredible when you start reading what they do. We're asking you to call Rick Larson, Patty Murray and everybody, vote against these bills.
So I was really shocked that the Seattle Times wrote an article like last week about the fruit industry in Eastern Washington, and was talking about how this was gonna be a great way to have a pathway to citizenship, and it was really gonna help. And that journalist didn't provide any criticism of the H2A program.
Well, that's the point of it, is so there will be no path to citizenship.
No, well, it's just like indentured servitude. If you can work, hundreds of hours, hundreds of days every year for 10 years, you'll be eligible.
Eligible to apply. The bill, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, has quote unquote a path to citizenship. But when you look at that path, it's really like another barrier to keep people working.
I think they'll quit giving you contracts in your 9th year.
Exactly. And there are certain points in that pathway where your employer has to vouch for you. So, I mean, that's another way of saying, I have to work to death here almost, so I don't piss off my employer, because then I won't be able to apply. And it's an application only. And it says no guarantee of approval until further investigation is done into the character and whether there have been any criminal activity by the person and all of this other stuff. I mean, it's not real. It's a false narrative, and it's not a real pathway to citizenship.
Yes, ma'am, behind? Yes.
Do you have documentation of the story you shared with us about the Skagit Valley farm workers working?
Oh yeah, we have documentation. There's news articles also written out and statements.
If you could share that, would be, because if you go to Costco and you say, look.
We can prepare
We can prepare an email so that you can share it. We have videos of it, but we also, if we happen to have, the Seattle Times and KUOW were in town that day because of the flooding, and they happened to go into the union office and we told them about it. And it's been well documented. Labor and Industries is doing an investigation on it. And also, well.
But it's a data, my point is, to this woman, I agree with her, actionable things that we can do. And I hear what you're saying, are good actions. But if we can point to these articles and say, this is why we are urging you not to vote this way because of these kinds of,
The thing is, we don't know, we can't say to you.
We can't say to you that we know 100% for sure that that Costco bought Skagit Valley Farms artichokes. But, I mean, Brussels sprouts, right? We haven't done that research, and we don't know if their Brussels sprouts have their own label, or do they get mixed up with everybody else's, but you can ask.
I'm just
It says so, it says so on the package.
I think another actionable item is, we have an individual coordinator reaching out to all the farms that have the H2A, believe it or not. Her name is Jeannie Schmidt. She is an individual I can pass that information along tonight, and is ready to get in contact with any individual that wants to help in the efforts of contacting the farms and reaching out to them.
My question is, and it's kind of, these, right now with the slave labor codes, keeping the price costs down, I'm paying so much for a bundle of the package of Brussels sprouts. But if they hire, if those guys are gone and we get our citizens in, their wages will go up, and then our package of Brussels sprouts will go up. I mean, I'm just wondering, I'm not looking at it negatively, but it's.
No, I understand.
Their reasoning.
Yeah, no, but all we can say is that that is like, it's a false narrative also, because that is not true. Familias Unidas por la Justicia has a union contract with Sakuma Farms. That farm is extremely profitable. And they are paying workers top wages. Like the average wage in the fields this last season was $34 an hour.
And how much are the H2As?
Minimum wage, and they just lowered the wage, by the way. They just lowered the wage for them to something like $15, $16 an hour. But what I'm saying is that anybody that says that bringing in, or raising farm workers' wages is gonna raise the price of food that's not going to happen. It has never happened. From the days that Cesar Chavez organized, there has never been a farm that has gone out of business because they signed a union contract and raised the farm workers' wages. Never, not one example of any farm that happened to, or the price of food went up. It is, stop believing, they have to just tell them it's just bullshit.
One other thing that I wanted to mention about that is that Rosalina mentioned that recently they actually lowered the wages of H2A workers. And what that was before there was an increase on what the wage for H2A workers was to supposedly incentivize farmers or landowners to hire local workers, because they would actually have to pay higher than minimum wage to contract H2A workers. That recently was removed, so it also points towards that it isn't really about the money in that sense, but it is about control over those workers, because it used to be, I believe it was like $2.50 higher.
Yeah, $19.70 per hour is what they were getting paid.
Which is $2.50 above what the minimum wage is in the state. And so the wages for H2A workers were actually higher than local farm workers. But they were hiring H2A workers for more control, and now they've actually gotten rid of that wage increase, which means that now there's not even a money incentive. It's just making it easier to use the H2A program.
She had a question back there.
Oh, I was just wondering if the H2A workers understand, when they, agree to participate, is it, I was just curious, like, is it more coercion that's involved in?
It's desperation of the poverty they're living with in Mexico. And it's what the other thing that H2A program does is it drives division within our communities, within the farm workers, Mexican farm workers that are here, and the Mexican workers that are coming in. It is very divisive, and and I've spoken to H2A workers, and especially a lot of the ones from Sabana farms when we try to organize, and they literally said, we don't like this country, we're not coming here because we want to come, we need the money for our families, we don't want to stay here, we don't want to organize, we want to go home with our paycheck. They're very clear, right? So, yes, they know, and they're like, it's desperate, they need the money. And so they're going to be recruited. And the one thing we didn't mention, a couple of things. One is, and this is from the farmers themselves, it costs a farmer $2,400 to bring an H2A worker in. They pay that much extra to import them in. So it's not about the money, it's about control. And it's about removing the farm workers that are here that have reached a level of understanding their rights and organizing themselves. And we have now, our organization and the Union Familias Unidas, we have political power in this state now. That's why, thanks to our organizing and the Farm Worker Tribunal we've been having in Olympia for 13 years now, we have organized and we have support from the legislature to make these changes. And on Tuesday the 20th, the Farm Worker Union is going to be at a hearing of a bill that was introduced last Friday for a major collective bargaining bill, a union organizing bill in the state of Washington that is for sure to pass. Our intent is to pass this bill, which is House Bill 6045. Yeah, Senate Bill 6045 is the bill. And there will be a hearing next Tuesday, the first hearing in that bill. But this is historic. In the state of Washington, to pass this type of collective bargaining bill gives more power to the local workers, which sets us up for a political struggle, people, that we have the opportunity to create something in Washington state for farm workers that doesn't exist anywhere else. The union leadership, which are indigenous Mixteco Triqui farm workers, have sat and negotiated with the industry, and they have told them, work with us. If there's a worker shortage, and you can prove it to us, we will help you find workers so you don't have to import from Mexico. So we're not saying no H2A, we're saying if you can prove it, and we agree with you that there's a worker shortage, we will find those workers that you need. Just hire the people, the workers that are here, because we're part of you. We're part of the community. Our payroll stays here and is being used. We're totally paying taxes, renting homes. Our kids are in the schools. They're paying part of these taxes, the levies, right? So support us. We'll get you as much information as we can. This fight is just beginning in Skagit Valley.
Yeah, the Skagit Valley Herald, are there articles?
We tried. We're doing the best that we can. The best place. Yeah.
I just have one quick question. You mentioned that the farms are responsible for the health care. Is that a self-insured kind of health care plan?
No, it's just if a worker gets sick, you find a way to take care of them.
Yeah, so it's the responsibility of the farm to pay for the health care.
Yeah.
Unless you just let them die in their room. They don't have a health care policy for those.
No, it's just like, here's a first aid kit, or stay,
Yeah. Thank you.
So remember, you can go to the legislative page and vote pro, send in a pro.
Senate Bill
vote for
6045.
Senate Bill 6045.
So 6045,
45.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, I know we can go on and on.
I have to get my teeth.
Rosalinda's father knew how to welcome the outsiders. I had a college friend come to LaConner who had become an organizer for the union, Roberto Maestas, and he knew how to welcome me, make me feel good, simply by asking me to his residence for tequila.
We're having a reunion here of the honor students. This is great, thank you. One thing I do want to say is that I think we can need to educate people as well. I don't think people really understand what this program is and what it means and what it's doing. I think it's a huge amount of ignorance. And I mean, you don't really read much about it in the press. It's sort of, it's sort of like this undercurrent of things. So thank you all for coming, and thank you so much for all the work you do. And we're going to ask folks to put the chairs away and